Listen, I need you to understand something right now. What I'm about to tell you is going to change everything you think you know about XRP and the entire cryptocurrency market. The Federal Reserve just made a move that's going to send shockwaves through every financial market on the planet, and if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss the biggest wealth transfer opportunity of our lifetime. I've been tracking this market for years, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that what happened today isn't just another rate cut. This is the beginning of something massive. Something that's going to make early Bitcoin investors look like they just got lucky with pocket change. You see, while everyone was distracted by the headlines and the political theater, the Fed just handed us the keys to generational wealth. And XRP? XRP is sitting at the center of this financial revolution, poised to explode in ways that will make your head spin. But here's the thing that's keeping me up at night, and it should keep you up too. We're not just talking about making a few extra dollars here. We're talking about the kind of money that changes your family's entire future. The kind of money that lets you walk into your boss's office and tell them exactly what you think. The kind of money that means your kids never have to worry about student loans, or your parents never have to choose between medication and groceries. And right now, as I'm speaking to you, XRP is trading at just over $3. $3? Do you realize what that means? We're looking at a digital asset that's about to be unleashed by the very system that's been holding it back for years. Let me paint you a picture of what's really happening behind the scenes. The Federal Reserve just cut interest rates by 25 basis points, and that's just the beginning. I'm seeing projections for another 50 basis points in cuts before this year is over. But here's what the mainstream media isn't telling you, and here's what Wall Street doesn't want you to know. This isn't just about making borrowing cheaper. This is about flooding the system with so much liquidity that money has nowhere to go but into assets like cryptocurrency. And when that flood comes, XRP isn't just going to ride the wave, it's going to become the wave. I've been studying the Federal Reserve's patterns for over a decade, and I can tell you that what we're witnessing right now is unprecedented. The Fed is completely divided. 6 officials think we're done with rate cuts, but 9 officials think we need 2 more cuts this year. You know what that tells me? They're panicking. They're making it up as they go along. And that chaos is about to become our opportunity. Here's something that's going to blow your mind. When the Fed cuts interest rates within 2% of stock market all-time highs, the market has finished higher over the next 12 months 100% of the time. Not 90%, not 95%, 100%. That's a perfect track record going back to the 1980s. But while the stock market is going to do well, it's going to be boring compared to what's about to happen in crypto, and here's why. Right now, as the traditional markets start to get choppy, and investors start looking for the next big thing, all of that institutional money is going to start flowing into cryptocurrency like water through a broken dam. The total cryptocurrency market cap just hit $4 trillion again. 4 trillion, we're back at those previous highs, and this is just the warm-up act. The fear and greed index is sitting at 51, which means we're still in neutral territory despite this massive bounce. You know what that means. We've got so much more room to run that it's almost scary. And XRP, man, XRP is sitting in the perfect position. While Bitcoin is approaching $118,000 and Ethereum is pushing toward 4,600, XRP is still trading at levels that are going to make early buyers look like geniuses in 6 months. But here's what's really getting my blood pumping, and here's what should have you liquidating your savings account right now. The altcoin season index just hit 73 out of 100. That means alternative cryptocurrencies are showing tremendous strength against Bitcoin. And when altcoin season really kicks into high gear, XRP historically doesn't just participate, it dominates. I'm looking at the XRP chart right now, and what I'm seeing is making my hands shake with excitement. We just broke above a major resistance level that we've been testing for months. Not only did we break above it, but we've retested it and held it as support. That's textbook bullish price action that traders dream about. XRP is up 11.5% from current levels, and it recently pushed over 14%. Now I know what you're thinking. That's not life-changing money yet. But you're missing the bigger picture. This isn't the move. This is the signal that the move is coming. I'm seeing 3 major resistance levels ahead of us. First, we need to close above 313. Then we've got 332 and finally 357. Once we clear those levels with conviction, we're looking at a clear path to $4 and beyond. And when I say beyond, I mean way beyond. Here's something that's going to shock you. The total altcoin market cap, that's everything except Bitcoin and Ethereum, is sitting at a critical level right now. We're about 3 days and 21 hours away from a weekly candle close, and if we close above $1.13 trillion, that's going to be the biggest signal for altcoins going to new all-time highs that we've seen in years. Think about this for a second. We're sitting on the edge of the biggest altcoin explosion in cryptocurrency history. And most people are completely oblivious to what's coming. They're worried about their day jobs and their mortgage payments while we're positioned to capture wealth that could make those concerns irrelevant. But here's where it gets really interesting. And here's where the Federal Reserve's actions become absolutely critical to our success. Every time the Fed cuts rates, it makes holding cash more expensive and riskier. People start looking for assets that can maintain and grow their purchasing power. Gold does well in these environments. Real estate does well. But cryptocurrency goes absolutely insane. And we're not just talking about one rate cut here. The Fed is signaling that they're shifting their entire focus to the labor market. They're telling us in plain English that they care more about employment numbers than they care about inflation. You know what that means? It means they're going to keep cutting rates even if prices start going up. I've been watching the M2 money supply, and it's expanding at the same time inflation is rising. That's not a coincidence. That's the Fed choosing to print more money rather than let unemployment rise. And every dollar they print is a dollar that's going to flow into assets like XRP. The employment data is weakening, and the Fed is scared. When central bankers get scared, they do what they always do. They print money and they cut rates. And when they do that consistently, assets like cryptocurrency don't just go up. They go parabolic. I'm seeing reports that downside risks to employment have risen significantly. That's Fed speak for, we're going to keep the money printer running until the job market looks better. And with the current political climate and the pressure on the Fed to keep the economy running hot, I don't see them stopping anytime soon. But here's the part that's really keeping me up at night, and here's the part that should have you taking action immediately. This window isn't going to stay open forever. We're in that sweet spot right now where institutional money is starting to flow in, but retail investors haven't caught on yet. The smart money is already positioning. The institutional investors are already accumulating, but the general public is still skeptical, still waiting for more confirmation, still hoping for lower prices. By the time they figure it out, we're going to be looking at XRP prices that make today's levels look like pocket change. I'm tracking Bitcoin's movement closely because it's the gateway drug for the entire market. Bitcoin is sitting at $117,800 right now, and it's showing incredible strength. We've flipped resistance into support, and we're building a base for the next leg higher. Once Bitcoin breaks $120,000 and makes a run for new all-time highs, that's when the entire cryptocurrency market is going to explode. And when that happens, XRP isn't going to be a follower, it's going to be a leader. Here's something most people don't understand about market cycles. The big money doesn't move all at once. First, Bitcoin runs and gets all the headlines, then Ethereum starts to follow, and then when everyone is focused on those two, the altcoins explode in ways that make Bitcoin's gains look conservative. We're entering that third phase right now, and XRP is positioned perfectly to be one of the biggest beneficiaries. The regulatory uncertainty that's been hanging over XRP for years is starting to clear up. The utility and adoption are growing every quarter, and now, with the Fed providing the monetary backdrop for a massive bull run, all the pieces are falling into place. I'm looking at the weekly chart for XRP, and what I'm seeing is a coiled spring that's ready to explode. We've been consolidating in this range for months, building energy, building pressure, and now, with the Fed cutting rates and flooding the system with liquidity, we're about to see that energy release in a way that's going to shock everyone who's been sleeping on this opportunity. The technical indicators are all lining up. The RSI has been resetting, giving us room to run. The moving averages are starting to curl higher. And most importantly, we're seeing volume come back into the market in a big way. When price and volume move together like this, it's usually the precursor to explosive moves. But here's what really has me excited, and here's what should have you liquidating every unnecessary expense to get more exposure to XRP. The global financial system is changing in real time, and XRP is positioned to be at the center of that change. Central banks around the world are exploring digital currencies. Cross-border payments are becoming more important every day, and the traditional banking system is showing its age in ways that are becoming impossible to ignore. XRP was built for this moment. It was designed to solve the exact problems that are becoming critical right now. While other cryptocurrencies are fighting for use cases and searching for adoption, XRP is already being used by major financial institutions. It's already solving real problems for real companies moving real money. And as the Fed's actions make traditional correspondent banking more expensive and more complicated, XRP's value proposition becomes impossible to ignore. I'm seeing reports of major banks testing XRP for cross-border settlements. I'm seeing payment providers integrating XRP into their systems. I'm seeing governments and central banks taking notice of what Ripple has built. This isn't speculation anymore. This is reality unfolding in front of us. And the timing couldn't be more perfect. Just as the Fed is making it more expensive to hold cash and cheaper to borrow money, we're seeing the real-world utility of XRP start to explode. It's like someone lit a fuse on a powder keg, and most people are still debating whether the fuse is really burning. Here's something that's going to blow your mind. The last time we saw this combination of Federal Reserve policy and cryptocurrency market conditions, Bitcoin went from $3,200 to $69,000. That's more than a 20x return in less than 2 years. And Bitcoin was already established and well known when that happened. XRP is in a completely different position today than Bitcoin was back then. XRP has real utility, real partnerships, and real adoption growing every quarter, but it's still trading at prices that reflect skepticism and uncertainty rather than its actual potential. I'm not saying XRP is going to do a 20x from here, although honestly, that wouldn't surprise me given what I'm seeing. What I am saying is that we're looking at the kind of opportunity that creates generational wealth for people who are brave enough to act while others are still debating. The Federal Reserve just told us they're going to keep making money cheap and plentiful. The cryptocurrency market just showed us it's ready to absorb that liquidity and turn it into massive gains. And XRP is sitting at the intersection of those two trends, positioned to benefit from both the monetary policy and the technological revolution. But here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to talk about. And here's the reality that's going to separate the winners from the regret-filled observers. This opportunity has an expiration date. Not because the technology is going to fail or because the Fed is going to suddenly change course, but because once the gains start becoming obvious to everyone, the risk to reward ratio changes dramatically. Right now you can buy XRP for just over $3. A year from now, when the Fed has cut rates 2 more times and XRP is being used by dozens of major banks for cross-border payments, what do you think that price is going to look like? $5, $10, $20? I've seen this movie before. I was there when Bitcoin was trading for hundreds of dollars, and everyone was saying it was too risky, too volatile, too uncertain. I watched people wait for better entry points while the price went from $500 to $5,000 to $50,000. Don't be those people. The crypto market cap is back at $4 trillion and we're just getting started. The fear and greed index is still in neutral territory despite this massive bounce, which means we have enormous room to run. The altcoin season index is showing that alternative cryptocurrencies are outperforming Bitcoin, which historically leads to explosive moves in coins like XRP. And the Federal Reserve? They just gave us the monetary policy equivalent of rocket fuel. Cheap money, low interest rates, and a commitment to keeping the party going for as long as it takes to get employment back to where they want it. I'm looking at the total altcoin market cap right now, and it's sitting just below the critical resistance level that's going to confirm this is the beginning of the next major bull run. We're literally days away from a weekly close that could signal the start of the biggest altcoin explosion in cryptocurrency history. XRP has broken above major resistance, held it as support, and is building energy for the next leg higher. The target levels are clear: $3.13, then $3.32, then $3.57. Once we clear those with conviction, we're looking at a path to $4 and beyond. That's going to happen faster than most people think possible. The regulatory environment is clearing up, the utility is growing, the partnerships are expanding, and now the Federal Reserve is providing the monetary backdrop for a massive bull run that's going to make the 2021 highs look like a warm-up act. Here's what I want you to understand, and here's what I want you to remember when you're looking back on this moment in 5 years. We're not just investing in a cryptocurrency. We're positioning ourselves for a complete transformation of the global financial system. XRP isn't just going to benefit from the Fed's monetary policy, it's going to become an essential part of the new financial infrastructure that emerges from this chaos. The traditional banking system is slow, expensive, and increasingly unreliable. XRP is fast, cheap, and becoming more reliable every day. The Fed is making traditional financial assets less attractive by cutting rates and increasing inflation risk. XRP is becoming more attractive as a hedge against both monetary debasement and financial system inefficiency. This isn't just about making money, although we're going to make a lot of money. This is about being positioned correctly for the most significant financial transformation in our lifetime. The Fed's actions are accelerating this transformation, and XRP is going to be one of the primary beneficiaries. I'm seeing institutional adoption accelerating. I'm seeing regulatory clarity improving. I'm seeing technical development advancing. And now I'm seeing monetary policy aligning perfectly with everything else that's been building for years. The confluence of these factors doesn't happen often in financial markets. When it does happen, it creates the kind of opportunities that people talk about for decades afterward. The question isn't whether XRP is going to explode from these levels. The question is whether you're going to be positioned to benefit when it happens. The Federal Reserve just cut rates, and they're signaling more cuts are coming. The cryptocurrency market just bounced back to $4 trillion in total market cap. The altcoin season is beginning. And XRP is sitting at the center of all of these trends, coiled like a spring and ready to explode. This is your moment. This is your opportunity. The Fed just handed you the roadmap to generational wealth, and XRP is the vehicle that's going to get you there. The only question left is whether you're brave enough to grab the wheel and step on the gas. The next 6 months are going to be absolutely wild, and I can't wait to see how this plays out. But I can tell you this with absolute certainty. If you're not positioned in XRP right now, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. The Fed cut rates today, and that was just the beginning. 2 more cuts are coming before the end of the year, and each one is going to send more liquidity flowing into assets like XRP. The smart money is already positioning, the institutions are already accumulating, and the general public is still sleeping. Wake up, pay attention, and get positioned for the biggest wealth transfer opportunity of our lifetime. Because ready or not, it's happening right now.